Hey guys, welcome back to the DKOT Channel for our recap of Season 7, Episode 1 of The Game of Thrones. It is finally back. Winter is finally here. We've been waiting so long for this. It has been about 13 months since the last episode of Season 6 aired, but we finally have Season 7 back up and ready to go. And to help us discuss this amazing episode that is going to take us forward into the crescendo of this event, we have our wonderful friend Chrissy here with us. Say hello to everybody, Chrissy.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so Chrissy, you know where we got to start.
Absolutely, at the beginning.
That cold opening was amazing, was it not?
It was incredible. I was so confused at first because I thought, is this a flashback? But Grit Thorns doesn't do flashbacks.
Did you really
Hardly ever.
Well, unless Bran's involved, of course.
That's true.
Because he'll just warg into something that happened 1,000 years ago, and oh yeah, guys, we got to do this. No, but as soon as I saw Walder Frey's face show up on the screen, it was just. Oh, by the way, spoilers, guys, in case you didn't know. So if you haven't seen Season 7, Episode 1, I don't know why you clicked on this video, but yes, there's going to be spoilers. But yeah, so as soon as Walder Frey's face, and I saw it, and it just looked like his smile was different. I'm like, that is Arya wearing Walder Frey's face.
It was incredible.
It really was. And I actually, I don't know if you stayed tuned after the episode or not, but there was, Dan and Dave usually do their little episode recap and everything. And they talk about the way the actor portrayed it and how he didn't just use the facial expressions he was used to using. And as that conversation went on with the Frey boys and bringing out the wine, and you could really see that he was slipping. And it's amazing that he did this as an actor. He was slipping from Walder Frey into the facial expressions of Arya.
Yeah, it was even just, his vernacular changed and the way in which he was speaking. It was pretty awesome.
Yes, totally own that scene. You always got to give it to the Harry Potter actors who wind up on Game of Thrones. They seem to do the absolute best jobs. But yeah, so that was amazing. I can't get over just how cool, how well played that scene was. And I got to give it to Dan and Dave for making that the cold opening, because watching Arya walk out of the hall and then all of a sudden comes the Game of Thrones theme song, da 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 da, which
it was epic.
It really was. It really was. But did you notice in the beginning? Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Old Town has never been showed in a beginning before.
No, as it was going across the map, I'm like, oh, where's that? I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes, Old Town. So we knew that we were going to see Sam, which was fantastic, because Sam's going to be the guy who saves the day in the end. That's just my opinion. I don't know what everybody else thinks out there. I don't know. What do you think about? Because I was a little disappointed by this. I was looking at a Game of Thrones page on Facebook, and someone commented that when Sam comes on screen, they're ready to hit that fast forward button.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think so.
All right.
I think Sam is like the super secret weapon. I think he's the Neville Longbottom of Game of Thrones.
That's a great analogy. I do like that, because, I 100% agree with you on that. And I actually want to do a separate video about this. I consider Sam to be the bravest man in Westeros.
He is extremely brave.
Yes, and not fearless, because how can you have bravery without fear? But Sam truly is the guy who always acts in the face of fear, who always steps out of his comfort zone in order to get the mission accomplished. And that's why he's been by Jon Snow's side for so long. But Sam is definitely, to me, the bravest character in Westeros. And like you said, he's the secret weapon. He's their ace in the hole. It's his mind that's going to defeat these White Walkers.
Well, I always go back to that interaction with, I guess it was in season 1 with Cersei and Littlefinger, about what is power. And she said, power is power.
Oh, yes.
And I believe knowledge is power, and Sam has the knowledge.
And a lot of it, and especially now, just that longing look. Okay, when he is in the Citadel in this episode, and he makes that longing look into the restricted section.
Mm-hmm.
Again, more Harry Potter references, it
Yeah.
seems. It's like, okay, I'm expecting episode 2. Sam is going to be walking around using an invisible cloak, hanging a lantern so he can see, and Walder Frey and his cat are going to tell him he can't be in the restricted section. So, but just while we're on Sam, I got to bring it up. I don't know if you noticed it when they were flipping through the books. Did you see it?
I didn't.
You didn't see the dagger.
I saw the dagger. And I
Okay,
was like,
yes.
oh, that's interesting. What is that?
And we're gonna put a picture up on the screen here. The Entertainment Weekly cover, where they have all the Starks posing, and Arya Stark is wearing what we know to be was originally Littlefinger's Valyrian steel dagger, the one that was used to they attempted to assassinate Bran with. And a lot of speculation, a lot of theories out there going around right now about how she comes by this dagger. And I'd still like to know, because the last we actually saw that dagger was way back in season 1, when it was sitting on Ned Stark's desk in the Tower of the Hand. So we know that Littlefinger is probably going to want his dagger back.
Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions about how people got to certain places and obtained certain things.
Yes, and what I'm noticing about this is I think all the theories are going to end up getting thrown out and debunked by the end of this season. Not all the theories. I think some of the theories out there are good. A lot of people have taken the time to put pieces of a puzzle together, but a lot of these theories, like the one I mentioned in a previous video about the Iron Throne is going to be melted down and turned into an armory of Valyrian swords to fight the White Walkers. I'm going, you know that throne's made out of iron swords, right?
Iron.
Do I have to explain?
Oh, the irony.
Yes. The copper chair. That's what I'll be calling it from now on. But yeah, so that was... seeing that in the book and knowing that dagger itself, it's not just the Valyrian steel itself, but now we know how old that dagger is, and somehow that dagger, that is foreshadowing, that is going to come back into play with the fight against the others when they come. And we know they are coming, because you know the next scene I have to talk about, because he's one of my favorite characters. I've loved watching his story arc, how he's always had a heart underneath, but now it's really starting to come through. We got to talk about the Hound.
Yeah.
And not just the one scene either, but just everything that he went through, because we did end up going back to a previously visited location in this episode with the Hound.
That was very surprising to me.
It really was. It really was. Because, okay, so we know he is with the Brotherhood Without Banners right now. He's traveling with these guys, with Beric Dondarrion especially, who he's pretty much a walking dead man. And there's a theory about that we're going to touch on, too, in a minute, concerning Beric as well as Jon Snow. But so I know that's going to grab everybody's attention. But the theories are out there, and I don't think it's much of a theory. It's really based on something George R.R. Martin said. But we'll stick with the Hound for a second, and then we'll get back to that. But yeah, it really was surprising when the Hound, along with the Brotherhood Without Banners, come upon the house when Hound was traveling with Arya in, I believe it was season 4, they came across. And the guy and his little girl, the guy that the Hound had mugged, took his silver after they had welcomed him into their home. And they come back upon the shack, and the man and his little daughter are now dead. They have frozen to death. They've died, well, almost died of starvation, but it's clear from seeing them cuddled up and cold, as well as the ensuing dialogue, that the father took a knife and killed his daughter and himself, which was a really sad moment, which actually I believe, wasn't that the only death of the whole episode?
It may have been.
I can't recall. I know we didn't lose any major characters, but that was definitely...
Well, if you don't count the phrase, they all died.
I don't. Who counts the phrase?
I'm just saying.
No, of course, absolutely. That was actually a huge death because she took out, God, a good 50 of them at one time. And
Hmm.
come on, that's Arya, that's our girl. Way to go, girl. We love you for that.
Hmm.
But yeah, like it was the only one we really cared about per se, as far as characters we've liked. When the phrase died, we were all just, I don't think anybody sat there and go, oh my God, no, the phrase died.
Yeah,
We're
no,
like, yeah, go, Arya, get him, girl. That's what I'm
no
talking
love
about.
lost.
No love lost. Not at all. They talk about how Jon Snow is the one who avenged the Red Wedding, and I'm like, no, I know some other people who have helped avenge the Red Wedding. While we're at it, let's start with Arya, who just killed Walder
Hmm.
Frey and his sons. That house is now forgotten.
Hmm.
So, but that begs a question. I know we're straying off the Hound a little bit here, but Arya, her uncle is currently in the prisons at the Twins.
Hmm.
Edmure is still a prisoner. Because if you remember from season 6, when he surrendered River Run to Jaime Lannister, they took him prisoner and put him back at the Twins when it was done. So does she even know that Edmure is there? Would she have saved him? They completely skip, because the next time we see
Yeah.
Arya is something we're going to get to. We're going to touch on that right after we're done talking about the Hound here. But yeah, so we'll get back to that. So let's get back to the Hound. The Hound, we know not to be a religious man.
Hmm.
Tried to say a prayer to the Seven while he buried the bodies of the father and the daughter. Something I never thought I would see the Hound do. Not just the prayer, but taking the time to bury the bodies, to care.
Yeah, it
Something
really
touched.
showed his change.
It really has. It used to be, the Hound was the character who was, I still got the stain of butcher's boy blood on my yerkin, and
Hmm.
now he feels guilty about someone he didn't even really kill, because he was right. They never would have survived the winter, even if he hadn't taken that bag of silver.
Hmm.
But seeing the Hound's story arc is really inspiring, because it also, well, I hate to say inspiring, because if we know anything about George R. Martin, the more we love him, the more likely he is going to die. So,
Yeah. But I go back to the experience that the Hound went through himself, where he was near death,
right,
and he was saved to live on, and it begs to question, the Hound, even with his rough exterior, you know, in there is he's a changed man.
well, how much of that change came because of his time spent with Arya, even before his brush with death?
No, I think it's both.
Okay. So there's just something about this Arya girl. She will kill you, but she'll also soften your heart.
And I also think, Hound, would do the same. They were quite a pair.
Well, yeah, most definitely. But yeah, but the thing that really got me about the Hound, and we know he's not religious. We know he doesn't believe in any of the gods, particularly the Seven. But now traveling with the Brotherhood without banners, Beric tells him to look into the fire.
Hmm.
And we know Hound's history with fire. Gregor burned his face off with the fire when they were children, because he played with one of his wooden toys, a little wooden knight. But then all of a sudden, the Hound now doesn't seem to have a choice but to, at least, if nothing else, believe in the existence of the Red God.
Yeah, I enjoyed the conversation that he had with Sir Beric, because I feel like we got to get a little more insight into Beric and his thoughts about being alive still, and still being around,
Right.
and what purpose does he have. And I feel like it's a little foreshadowing when he says, there's nothing special about me, when there obviously is something special about him.
Right. Yeah. If nothing else, I mean, creator George R. R. Martin would not let you live this many seasons if there wasn't something special about you. But that's
Yeah.
knowledge we have, something he doesn't as the character. But yeah, just seeing him stare into those flames. And it seems also that now when the flames sparked, he did jump back a little bit,
Hmm.
but he went right back. He took another step forward as soon as that was done and looked right back into the flames. He was now
Hmm.
intrigued by them. It's like his fear of fire has been destroyed through this experience. So what exactly weapon would you have against the Hound at this point if you don't have fire? Or if you don't
Right.
have Brianna Tarth with you there to kick his ass. But,
Hmm.
you know, who also was completely amazing in this episode, but
She was.
she was brilliant. Now, let me ask you, let's get this out of the way. Tormund and Brienne, does it ever happen?
Well, I don't think it was something that they originally intended on happening, but I think the reaction that it's gotten since season 6, that the writers are kind of playing it up a little bit because they know that we like it.
Well, but you got to give it to a guy like Tormund. He's never seen a woman like Brienne before. I mean, this is a guy who apparently had to go live inside of a giant for a little
Yeah.
while. So, for those of you who don't know, who aren't familiar with the books, there's a much, much deeper story to our boy Tormund than what you get in the show. But we do here at the DKOT channel, we're trying to stick to the show. So we're not going to get too into that. But if you have any love for Tormund at all, you've got to get yourself into these books because he is a much, much deeper character than we even get to see on the show, and his relationship with Jon Snow, it goes way beyond that. So it's just, yeah, check that out. So, but yeah, so Brienne, definitely, I like the way she handled Sansa a little bit this episode. Because of course,
She seemed more motherly.
absolutely, I think
In a
that's
way.
a good word for it. Yeah. Yeah, because we see the scene where where's Littlefinger's trying to get into Sansa's head, and I gotta admit, though I don't expect Sansa to stay as strong as she is in this episode, she was very strong at kind of keeping Littlefinger at bay. Like, stop, you're not going to get in my head. I don't want to hear what you have to say. You're full of crap, buddy. Everybody knows you're full of crap. All you do is lie. You've pledged your loyalty to the Starks in the North, which is something that he said. And she's like, well, who haven't you pledged your loyalty to? Like, you are
Right.
in not so many words, she just came out and said, dude, you're a freaking snake. Like, why should we trust you? And then, after that conversation, Brienne goes to Sansa, and Brienne says, what is he still doing here? Not in an angry way, not in a submissive, servient way, but like you said, motherly, like a friend, like girl to girl, like, girl, listen to me. Why is he still here? And I think Sansa, though the actor and the script didn't have her struggling to find the words, I think the way Sophie's face was in this scene, she was struggling to find the reason. Yeah, why is he still here? And I think it's because Sansa is who she's always been, even with all the crap that she's been through. The one thing that hasn't changed, and she can say it as much as she wants, Sansa wants power. Sansa wants to play the Game of Thrones.
And I found it very interesting how Littlefinger thought that he could get an in with Sansa after Jon and her had that disagreement.
Oh, yes.
And just his face was like, oh, okay, I've got you now, Sansa. And just for Sansa to come back and be like, no,
well,
you don't.
That does bring up another point, and that is where, and I absolutely loved his leadership. I want to praise how much of an awesome leader Jon Snow is right now. We saw the meeting at the hall in Winterfell, and besides the way he allowed the children of the traitors, shall we say, I think that's the best way to put it. He allowed the children of the traitors, of the Karstarks and the Umbers, to keep their castles, to keep their homes, and to keep their lordships as they pledged fealty to him right then and there. And I love how it came after the argument where Sansa steps in and says, no, we should do this. She interrupts him. She blatantly just cuts him off. And we definitely saw the beginnings of where Littlefinger is starting to get into her head, because she's starting to act on that. Whether she's coming right out and saying it, whether she's admitting it to Littlefinger, we know she's certainly not admitting any of it to Brienne because she's searching for those words. But Jon's in the middle of talking, and they're asking the king a question, and her ego automatically, excuse me, I'm the Lady of Winterfell, and this is what I decide to do. She doesn't say it that way. She says, well, you're the king. Well, why don't you do this? And this is the way it should be done. So it's clear right now, Sansa can say what she wants. She does not respect Jon Snow as the king in the North.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a dangerous slope that I think we're going to be going down with that. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think it's this path, and listening to Littlefinger and letting him get into her head. And here is my prediction for Sansa Stark: she's gonna die. I'm coming right out and saying it. Her arc has been amazing. I've never liked the character, but I've enjoyed watching the character, if you get what I'm saying. I've enjoyed watching her arc, but I've never liked her. I've always felt there is something under the surface that she's hiding, this ridiculously selfish motive, and I think that really came out in this episode, her selfishness.
I feel like it's been that way sort of from the beginning.
Right.
You know, especially, you know, compared to Arya, because Arya's, you know, she's just so likable, you know, from season 1, and Sansa just comes off as, you know, basically you're stuck up, you know, girl, like, I'm the lady and this is how I'm going to be treated, and I expect to be treated a certain way, and what you do is unacceptable and what I do is acceptable. That whole dynamic to her, despite everything she's been through. And there's times where, you know, I felt so bad for Sansa, and, you know, I've emoted with what she was going through. But at the same time, I don't think that part of her personality has ever gone away.
Right. Okay. No, I definitely see what you're saying with that, in that she's never changed. She's grown. She's gotten tougher.
Mm-hmm.
She's learned to put on thicker skin. She's learned to build her walls. But she's still the same old, I want to be the queen Sansa.
Right. And, you know, the comment that she made, how she learned a lot from Cersei.
Yes. And she couldn't even look Jon in the face while she was saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really kind of a big deal. But speaking of Cersei, how about that awesome map she's got rocking?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Right? I need to hire that artist, first of all. I want that in my living room. I want that awesome map in my living room. But we really didn't see, I don't know. I think they threw me, at least me, they threw me a little bit of a curveball with Cersei and Jaime. Cersei seemed a little happier than normal, which is odd. Like, she just seemed more upbeat and energetic. And I mean, she was still evil Cersei, but she just really had this, well, here I am, I'm the queen, let's get shit done today.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm like, where is this attitude coming from? Like, where is the deep, dark, I will slay my enemies with Jaime by my side?
Well, I feel like
now she's
sure
like,
he
we're gonna build a dynasty, yay! And I'm just like, why are you so upbeat? What the hell's going on here? What are you doing? Like, can we get the mountain in here to smack some sense into her, please?
But even when Jaime goes to her and says, we didn't talk about Tommen, like, what happened? And she's like, no, it's gone. It's done. We're moving forward and not backward.
You know what, though? There was a line in there that I was very glad that she said, because we as the fans have been saying it. Tommen betrayed her, and he really did. Not just with, you know, the whole lack of trial by combat thing, but he came out, he knew what the outcome of her trial was going to be. She was going to be thrown into prison, if not killed. And this was going to be for the rest of her life, the Queen Mother, enslaved, taken prisoner by a freaking religious nut.
Mm-hmm.
And if only Tommen had grown a pair, that never would have happened. But he turned around and he betrayed his mother. Now, think what you want about Cersei. Let's be honest here. Can you do that to your mom?
Right.
Like, okay, so
she's still your mom.
There's 1 billion people in Westeros, and she hates 999,999,999 of them. You're the one she loves. Dude, that's your mama. You don't betray her.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that's a lesson he would have learned. So, honestly, when Tommen jumped out of that window last season, I was just like, bye. I kind of knew that was coming. Like, I didn't expect much more from him, though.
Yeah.
But Cersei has somebody on the way looking to kill her, and that is Arya Stark of Winterfell.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we last saw Arya in season 6, she told, quote unquote, Jaqen Hagar, the faceless man, that her name was Arya Stark, and she was going home to Winterfell. So we've had all the theories. Everybody's been talking. What about the reunions? We know Melisandre, the Red Woman, is coming south after Jon kicked her out of the north. And everybody's going, okay, well, her and Arya are going to cross paths because Arya's on her way north. But as soon as we started this, it turns out that Arya is not headed to Winterfell. She is on the King's Road, headed towards King's Landing, which is where I believe she heard the most angelic and sweetest of voices as she traveled by horseback.
It's so nice to have the song stylings of Ed Sheeran as you're riding down the King's Road on your way to King's Landing.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? It would have made the Crusades last half the time they did. They would have been so much happier and much more pleasant people if only they had Ed Sheeran in Lannister armor sitting by a fire singing songs to them. Would have made the whole process a lot easier. But no, okay, so that was Ed Sheeran's a cameo that we were all expecting. I honestly expected that he was going to turn out to be basically just one of the Northmen who was in the meetings with Jon Snow, with the King of the North. Are we calling him Jon Stark yet?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know either, because I don't think I heard him. I heard him called John and Your Grace.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't hear Stark. I didn't hear Snow. And of course, we all know he's the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna. But he doesn't know that. The only person in all of Westeros who knows that right now is Bran.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't hear, so I don't know. He's wearing the Stark sigil on his armor. He is the king in the north. He does reside at Winterfell. It's hard after 6 seasons to stop calling him Snow, but do you think, are we supposed to start calling him Jon Stark now?
I don't know.
That's a good answer.
I feel like he'll always be Jon Snow.
He'll always be Ned Stark's bastard, even though he's actually the son of Rhaegar Targaryen.
Yeah. Because, what are you going to call him, Jon Targaryen? That doesn't roll off the tongue very well.
It really doesn't roll off the tongue, but we also know, but if you recall from season 6, I don't think John's his real first name. Because when Lyanna whispers into Ned's ear, his name is, and Bran sees what she said, and believe me, every Game of Thrones theorist, fan, reviewer has been over this video over and over and over again. We have no idea what name she said. They did a good job of hiding it. We just know the last name's got to be Targaryen.
Which was intentional.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Would he have been named Rhaegar?
It's possible. It's definitely possible. Maybe he was named Duncan. Who knows, after Aegon's little buddy from the prequels. Let's see. What else happened in this episode? There was just so much jam-packed into 1 hour, and that's apparently the way the season's going to be going.
Yeah, they said every episode's going to be a lot going on. How about Euron Greyjoy, huh? Just walking in there
like he owned the place, and he was going to give the queen his cock.
Yep.
He was ready to do it too. He's ready to take her right in front of Jaime. He's like, "Watch out there, pretty boy. Let me show you how this is done."
And I feel like this is also going to be the season of sick burns.
Oh,
look, I got 2 hands.
That was a pretty good burn. Show what I could do with these. But that does beg the thing. Now, we know it's either season or episode 2 or 3. I forget, but Cersei returns a gift. I believe it's episode 3 because we got the title descriptions on those. But Euron comes in and he says he is not going to return to King's Landing until he comes back to give Cersei a gift that she wants. And I have a feeling from the leaked photos, I already know who exactly that gift is.
Yeah, my friend and I were discussing that last night, and he had same sort of feeling based on photos and videos that he had seen. That who he thinks it is.
Well, and that's the thing about leaked photos. I think they leaked them intentionally. I don't think this is somebody on set who signed a confidentiality agreement. They know where everybody would be standing while what was being filmed with what from what angle. And you can believe me, HBO will sue your pants off if you disclose anything that was not to be disclosed. So I truly think that these leaked photos are leaked on purpose. we know Jon Snow at some point. See, I'm giving him a completely different name.
Yeah,
Now. Who
just
cares?
whatever.
You know, the king of the North is going to be going to Dragonstone at some point, and he's going to meet Daenerys. He's going to have the reunion with Tyrion, which, oh my God, if there's a reunion I've been looking forward to, it is Jon and Tyrion.
And let me tell you, that's going to be like, talk about the meeting of the minds, because you've got Davos with Jon.
Oh, yes.
Right? And Tyrion with Dany. Like, it's
you know, it's funny.
crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up. Nobody ever mentions just how incredibly intelligent Sir Davos is.
I love Sir Davos.
His heart is as big as his brain on top of it. No, he really is. He's an amazing, amazing character. And I'm glad he's still alive. I'm glad he did not die by Stannis' side. But I still love it. And yes, excuse me. Yes, we are going back to season 6 for this, but I love when Brienne of Tarth walks up to Sir Davos and Melisandre, who were there talking, and she's just like, oh yeah, don't worry, yeah, Stannis admitted it right before I executed him. And he just looks at her like, what can I say? You're right. Like, I swore an oath to this guy, but you know what? He's dead now, and you're spot on. He had it coming to him. And this was before he knew Cherie was burned at the stake. So that's kind of a big deal there. But Brienne of Tarth is definitely, while I considered her kind of dry when she first came on as a character, not saying anything against the amazing and beautiful Gwendolyn Christie, because she just portrays that role so well. And not to mention, she's nowhere near as ugly as she's supposed to be, as described in the books, because she's Gwendolyn Christie and she's gorgeous. But I'm really trying to come to grips with how I thought this was such a dry character in the first place when she first arrived, and now she seems to be becoming such a more prominent character. We're starting to see different sides of her, like you mentioned earlier, with her kind of taking a motherly role on with Sansa, but she's also a beast who could whip the Hound in one-to-one combat. So she's definitely a complex and amazing character, and I'm really, really wondering where they go with her and what role she plays in not only what still seems to be a war of how many kings at this point, but the real war to come, the Great War with the people coming from the land of always winter.
Which, let's talk about that. They had that 30-second preview. And we got some giants up in the north.
Yes. And believe me, as soon as I turned off the show, there was already people on the internet talking about, oh, look, 1-1 is a White Walker now. Can we squash this right here and right now?
Right.
Okay.
He was burned, right?
Yeah, we did not see him burned, but we know his company, who he was with. He was with Jon Snow. He was with the Wildlings. He was with all the Northmen, and he was with men of the Night's Watch who know and understand what's coming, and that's the White Walkers. And if you don't burn the body, it becomes a White Walker when they show up. Not to mention, he died in Winterfell. Okay, he died in Winterfell. So what did they do after 1-1 died? They threw him on a wagon, towed him back north, and dumped him over the wall. So let's squash that theory right now. I don't think we have to go any further into that. But what was really cool with the Giants, and I know it's going to bring up another theory because it's been mentioned, and we could actually quote Prince Oberyn on this, and some say we live inside the big blue eye of a giant. And they zoomed in on that one eye, and it was big and blue. And I already know the theories that are going to come out. I'm just going to go ahead right now and say your theory is bullshit. Thank you for agreeing. You don't have to if you don't agree with me.
No, I do. I mean, it's I get it. Like, it's crazy cool. Like, whatever. It's very clever, but I don't agree with it.
It was crazy, right? But that theory, let's just squash that right now. I'm not buying into it. I'm not buying into it at all, especially since it wasn't just one giant. It was one giant with a whole ton of other White Walkers, and 2 more giants were coming up the rear. So now we know that the White Walker army has at least 3 giants. With 1-1 dead, we don't have any.
Right.
This fight is going to be an epic battle for the ages. But we did talk about the Hound a little bit earlier. I'm actually going to take an opportunity now. I want to go ahead and show that clip of when the Hound was talking into the fire, because I want to go over a little bit of what he had to say. Let's go ahead and watch this clip right here.
What do you see? Logs burning.
Keep looking. What do you see?
Ice. A wall of ice. The wall.
What else?
It's where the wall meets the sea. There's a castle there. There's a mountain. Looks like an arrowhead. The dead are marching past. Thousands of them.
Do you believe me now, Clegane? Do you believe we're here for a reason?
All right, now, excuse me, we should have gone ahead and played that earlier because that was an amazing clip. We see the Hound has had a vision of the White Walkers coming from the north and getting past the wall, it seems. Now, it talks about going to the sea and the Eastern Castle, but what I'm really concerned with is in this episode, Bran and Mira have made it to the wall. Bran and Mira have now crossed the wall. We know that the wall is more than just a big block of ice. It was built in ancient times with ancient enchantments to prevent always winter spilling beyond the wall to, the human side of the wall. Bran's crossed. And if you recall from season 6, when the Night King touched Bran, he was now able to get past those enchantments into the hut of the Three-Eyed Raven. Now that Bran has crossed the wall, and what do you think, Chrissy? Does this now mean that the Night King can just strut across the wall like it's not even there?
It certainly seems that way.
Okay.
I know there were theories about the wall coming down as soon as Bran crossed through, but that obviously did not happen.
Right, thankfully, because that would have been lame.
But he's there, and that connection that he has with the Night King it definitely.
Well, you've heard my theory on their connection.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe it is one of the, as much as I make fun of the outlandish theories, and we did do a video on this, on who is the Night King, I still haven't seen any evidence to sway me away from this theory that Brandon Stark is the Night King.
Mm-hmm.
That Brandon Stark has been every Brandon Stark in history. Brandon Stark finds a way to go back to the time of the first men. There's ways of getting lost. If you spend, if you're there too long, you drown, I believe is the exact phrase. And Bran may even forget who he is, what his purpose was of going back there. He could be essentially living through an avatar of himself as, a member of the First Men, and gets the dragon glass shoved into his heart, and boom, now Brandon Stark is the freaking Night King.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. It's just I put those pieces of the puzzle together, but the connection that him and the Night King have, it's not just because they're both powerful wargs. It can't be. It's got to be deeper than that.
It's more than that. And I believe and agree with you with what you're saying about the enchantments and things being removed because, it's season 6 as your proof.
Yeah. All right. So, Chrissy, before we get going here, is there anything from the show that you remember specifically that you wanted to touch on? Anything that, kind of got your mind rattling a little bit?
Well, I just wanted to mention just how beautiful the ending was with Dany returning home.
Oh, yes. How could I even... Shoot me right now for not even bringing that up.
It was so cinematically beautiful.
It really was, but what I liked most about those moments wasn't just, yes, cinematically beautiful, and definitely the dramatic way of her touching the sand and her singing Stannis' banner and ripping it down from the rafter. no, this is mine, and her looking at the throne, but it was the space everyone was giving her. It was everybody hanging back. You see, like, even when they're walking up the steps, Tyrion, normally the guy who would be shooting his mouth off at a mile a minute, saying wise things, mind you, but, shooting his mouth off a mile a minute, always right by her hand, right by her side. He was walking 10 paces behind her, and he didn't say a word.
There was that moment where I was like, is he going to be the first one to speak, or is she going to be the first one to speak?
Right.
And it was her.
And you know what? But that gave us a real insight into Tyrion as well as her and her moment, in that Tyrion truly is 100% loyal to this queen. I don't see him for any reason whatsoever being convinced in any way, shape, or form to leave her side. She is his queen. He has made that decision. He kneels before her and her alone. That is his queen, and I love that. But someone else we also know who has true loyalty to their queen is Grey Worm. And as she was going to walk up those steps to the throne, and at first I didn't quite know what to take of the scene, but now I really like that they included it. When she was walking up to go look at the throne, I thought she was going to sit on it, which she did not. Also a nice surprise. Grey Worm goes to follow her because that's his job, to protect her, to always stay within so many paces of her. And Missandei puts out her hand. She kind of does like a quick stop in the car on a first date. She cop a feel real quick of a Grey Worm there. Quick stop, there you go. Ooh, like your pecs. But she puts the brakes on him, and it was just really awesome to see that, where, no, this is her moment. Everybody shut the fuck up. Everybody, excuse my language, everybody shut up, hang back for a second. Let her have her moment. And then she goes up to the throne, and she goes right past it. She goes into the war room. So now we have two queens with two totally awesome maps. So I think we should call season 7 Queens with Maps. I think that's a good way to put it. And she's ready to get to work. She's the first to speak. She said, "Are you ready? Are you ready to do this? Let's go." Like, there is no time to sit there and, be all regal. It is time to lead. It is time to take back my kingdoms. So, yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. I can't believe I even forgot the most important part of the damned episode. Well, the beginning and the end were the two most important parts. Arya killed the Freys in awesome fashion, and Daenerys is officially back in Westeros. Oh, it's going to be great.
It's going to be a great season.
It's going to be amazing, especially when you're on. Bring Cersei those sand snake bitches. It's got to be the gift. And Cersei returning the gift, what do you want to bet? That's Yara Greyjoy. I'm calling it now. Those are my predictions. From the leaked photos, we know that these women end up prisoner in King's Landing, but I think that's how it's going to work out. That's going to be the trade. Lannisters are going to get Yara, and she's going to be the gift to Euron after Euron has brought Cersei the sand snakes. What do you think?
I initially thought he was going to try to go get Tyrion. That was my initial gut reaction, that he was going to go and he was going to go try to get Tyrion.
Okay. Interesting.
Because he had mentioned about, offhandedly, you should try killing your brother and see how it feels. Okay. And then he said he was going to bring the gift.
So while a lot of us in the audience were sitting there talking about Jaime Lannister, you picked up on something different that could
I
also
was thinking,
maybe have been foreshadowing.
Yeah, perhaps, because that's what she's always wanted. She's always wanted Tyrion dead.
Right. Of course, ever since he killed her mother. That's what it comes down to. But this is Westeros. Everybody dies in childbirth around here.
Yeah. So that was my initial thought, but I'm not sure now.
It's interesting. We shall wait and see. All right. So, Chrissy, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the DKOT channel to help us out today with this. I guess you could call it a podcast. It's YouTube, but we'll call it a podcast anyway. You have been amazing. Thank you so much. And I know you're as big a fan of Game of Thrones as I am. So it's always nice to have somebody to do this banter with. I thought we were going to be done in like half an hour here. We're going on like 45 plus minutes. So this is great. So we got something. And if you would like to come back next week, I would absolutely love to have you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. So that way we could do that. All right. Well, let me just get a couple of announcements out of the way here real quick, and we will say our goodbyes. Guys, I really hope you did enjoy this video. Definitely a special thanks to Chrissy for coming out and helping us out with this today. If you did like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out a lot. And anything that we talked about today, anything Game of Thrones, make sure you tell us your thoughts in the comments. And guys, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. That way you can stay up to date on all of the things that the DKOT channel is going to be uploading here in the near future, on top of the video game Let's Plays that we're doing, more Game of Thrones talks that we have going on. We've got some amazing pop culture top 10 lists coming up, and big announcement, want to let you know right here. I don't know if we said his name on air yet, Chrissy. You know him, a friend of ours. Jason Pollock, the comedian, the author, is going to be our eyes and ears on the ground of Monster Mania Con 37 in New Jersey.
Oh,
Yes.
that's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. You know how much Jason loves the horror. He goes to every convention. And
Yeah, he was just at Blobfest this
yes,
weekend.
Blobfest that also
Yep.
took place in New Jersey. I got to see it through his pictures on Facebook, but that was really awesome. So yeah, so he's going to be our eyes and ears on the ground of that event. So that's really cool. But guys, that also means there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes footage, a lot of extra stuff coming up. And if you want to go beyond what we are putting on this channel, coming up in the future, we are going to have a lot of stuff on our Patreon page, a lot of behind the scenes footage, a lot of candid cut stuff that you won't see in the regular videos that we're doing, especially once we have Jason on the ground with Monster Mania Con. So if you would like to help support this channel, help us continue to grow, help us continue to expand and produce better content for you, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can support us. Just go to patreon.com/DKOT. And guys, thank you so much for listening today. Chrissy, thank you so much for coming in. Say goodbye to the DKOT audience.
See you guys. Thanks for listening.
All right, guys, thank you so much. You have been wonderful as always, and we shall see you next time.